Hello, everyone. Good morning. Happy Saturday to all of you who are logging in to watch this episode 24 of our Rebel Studio Facebook Live series. And every time I say that, I have to kind of check myself because I also do my podcast. So I have to remember which intro I am using. So for those of you who are watching us live, welcome to the Rebel Studio Facebook Live series once again. And my name is Krista. And today we have a very, very special guest because she's going to talk to us about something that's really important for all our businesses, especially today when we are running our businesses online. So we're going to talk about email marketing. So before we get Michelle Grimsley of Spiral Synergy on the screen, I'm going to just introduce briefly why we do this. So a lot of people ask me, why do you do this and how often does it happen? So the Rebel Studio Facebook Live series started during last year's pandemic when I decided that I would love to bring on some of my friends and even some of the contacts that I have onto Facebook to share what they know about marketing, about business, and about leadership. So this is how it happened. And because I enjoy doing it so much and I bring on so many interesting people, I decided to continue doing it, even though right now, well, technically we are no longer under a lockdown or a pandemic. Well, pandemic maybe, but not under lockdown. I decided that to keep on bringing these people on because they have such amazing knowledge and experience to share that can help all of us in business. So I'm also learning as I talk to my guests, and I'm also having such a good time. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that for those of you who don't know, I do have a podcast and it's called Womenpreneur Asia. And you can check it out at womenpreneurasia.com or any of your favorite podcast apps. For instance, Spotify and all those wonderful apps that you have that we listen to a podcast on. So I have one bonus episode for season 1 that I just launched yesterday. And that is like a kind of a prelude before season 2 starts. So please check it out if you're interested in podcasts. And I know a lot of people do listen to podcasts these days. And the other thing I wanted to mention also is that on the 17th of April, I'll be teaching a webinar where I'll be talking about getting visibility for your business. So if you're interested in that, please check out the details at rebelstudio.com. So now that we are done with the kind of introduction of what we do and who we are, I'd like to bring on our guests. And if you're watching the replay, welcome. And please share this out if you find this useful. I'm going to bring on Michelle.
Morning,
hi, Michelle. Hi, morning.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So before we got on, we kind of had, how should I say, a little bit of a tech
Oh,
issue.
technical glitch. It's always good to have a technical glitch before a
a live stream. yeah, before a technical subject.
Nothing like raising the stress levels, but anyway, not a problem.
Yeah. So I like to say good morning to some people who have just joined us. Hi, Gideon. Good morning. So, well, Michelle, before we get started into today's
let's carry on. Did you want to ask me something or tell me something?
I wanted to ask you, okay, how did you end up in Penang, first of all? That's before we even get into your story.
Okay,
the other part of the story.
Before I was in Penang, I should say, I spent the first 20 years of my career in clothing and textile manufacturing. Okay, so that's where I come from. I have a degree in textile technology. I worked in factories in the UK, which is where I'm from, and also around the world in Asia. I spent time in Penang in the 90s and also Bangkok. So that's what happened to me. 2000, I had a baby. 2006, me, my husband, and our 2 children then came to Penang with my husband's job. So I spent the first year in Penang drinking coffee and sort of doing the expat wife thing, running the children to swimming lessons and school and all the rest of it. And the next year, by accident, I became president of the International Women's Association. in Penang. So some of you may know that organization. I knew nothing about it before I joined it, and then I quickly realized why nobody else wanted to be the president. But never mind. I had a very good group of ladies around me, and we had a lot of fun, and we arranged many interesting and well-attended events, and it made me think that there were many things happening in Penang, or there were many things happening elsewhere in the world that I would like to have attended that were not happening in Penang. And to be honest, I fell in love with Penang. So when my husband's contract finished, I said, "I'm really sorry, darling, but I don't want to go back to England." And he said, "What do you think you're going to do?" I said, "I think I'm going to stay in Penang." He said, "And do what?" I said, "I'm going to start a business here." And he said, "Doing what?" I said, "I'm going to do events." And he said, "I don't think that's going to be very successful." I said, "Well, I'm going to stay here and give it a try." So that was in 2008, the end of 2008. So I'm still here.
And your husband, of course, and your whole family has been with you, right?
That my husband had to go back to England at that time because he did his contract here finished and he was recalled to England. The children stayed here with me. They were already in school here and happily so. When my husband retired in 2012, he came back here to be with us. And so we were here as a family for 5 years. And then our son got to 16 and went to the UK to do his A-levels. So my husband and son went to the UK, and 2 years later my daughter went to the UK. So actually the rest of my family is in the UK, but I'm still hanging on here in Penang.
Okay. And it seems to me that you've actually love Penang. You love what's happening in Penang.
I love Penang. I love Penang. If I never step off this island again, I will still be happy. You know, I can stay here as long
Forever.
as I can stay here. I am happy. So
okay. So that's how you ended up in Penang, doing events.
That's how I ended up in Penang.
Yeah. So now we can get into today's conversation, whereby we're going to talk about email. So a lot of people say that these days, with all the new technology coming up, with all the new platforms and social media, marketing is becoming more and more difficult because there's so much coming at you. So you go onto Facebook, you can see lots of stuff happening. You go into Instagram, there's plenty of stuff happening. But you have stuck to email.
I have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And why? Okay. Why? And how has that worked for you?
Okay. I just give a little bit of background that when I started the business, I had no experience apart from my 2 years of IWA doing events. And the first year, when you say event manager in Malaysia, and maybe there's some event managers amongst the people who are joining us, what normally it means is you want to have a birthday party or an annual dinner or something. You call up somebody and an event manager, and they will arrange the thing for you. So I had 1 year of doing that, and it was not an altogether satisfactory experience because people always want to cut costs on the things that make the difference. The difference between an event being ordinary and an event being wow, they always want to cut the costs. So I thought, I want to control the quality of the experiences that I'm arranging. So instead of doing events for other people, I will create the events that I would like to go to, and then I would just tell as many people as I can and see who wants to join in. So that's what I started off with. When I started in 2010, doing that in 2010, 2009 was a sort of holding year. When I started doing that in 2010, I started off using my Yahoo email with the, 150 people that I knew personally, because I thought these are things that I would like to do, and maybe some of the other people that I know would like to join in with them. But what happened, and people did want to join in, the things that I did at the beginning, people said, "Oh yes, we'd like to go to that place for lunch, or we'd like to go and explore that place for a day trip or whatever." But using Yahoo or Gmail is limiting, because you can only send a few messages at a time before they start to identify you as either spam or bulk mailing, and they limit your ability to send email. And so, and this is in the days before WhatsApp, of course, in the days before Instagram, though I think there was Facebook, but I was not a great Facebook user. So I started off with Yahoo, and then I realized the limitations of that, and I went down to Singapore to see a shopping event there. Some of you may know my event, Super Stylish Shopping, but when I was in the development stage of Super Stylish Shopping, I went to see what sorts of shopping events were being held in other places. So I flew down to Singapore, and I met some really nice ladies there, and I joined the mailing list of one of them. Okay. And they were using an emailing service, Constant Contact, which, as it turns out, is what I'm also using. And one of the things I really liked about their mailing when they mailed to me was it always had my name. So it said, "Hi, Michelle." So it'd say, "Hi, Michelle, we'll be at this event in Singapore, or we've got these new products," or whatever. And I thought, how magical that they know my name. It sounds really good. So when I was looking for alternatives to Yahoo, I thought maybe I'll check out this Constant Contact, because I like what I'm receiving from these other people. And basically that's how I got started on Constant Contact. Now, why have I persisted in using email when there are many other sort of social medias that I could be using? The answer is that the best source of new customer, or the best source of new sales, is from old customers. Okay, unless you are, or let's say if that is not your business proposition, you are making life very hard for yourself. Because if you have to find a new customer for every sale, you have to use a massive effort to keep finding new customers. Okay, so I have, so my objective is to try and connect with the customers that I already have, to offer them new experiences, new events that if they've attended previous events, or they've even bought from my newsletter, because some of you will know I have like a classified ads section. So whatever I bring to your party, and I have a few different strands to my business, but whatever is the part that you like, I hope that if you've been satisfied with the first interaction that you've had with me, that you would like to interact with me again. And email is for me is the best way of doing that. Because email is we don't have, in the very beginning, before at the same time as I was using email, I actually used to print little postcards for the events that I was arranging, and buy stamps, and have people's postal addresses. And people used to come to my events holding the card and say, "I received this invitation from you." They took it as, although it's a public event, but they took it as a personal invitation when they received a card. So I would say in these days, email is the closest to a personal letter, and Facebook has a place. Instagram, of course, Snapchat, TikTok, any of those have a place. But Facebook has its own objectives, okay? Mark Zuckerberg has his own plan, and his plan is for Facebook. His plan is not for my business. His plan is how to get the most business for Facebook. So when you put a post on Facebook, he will send it to maybe, I don't know, 20 of your, depending on how many followers or likes you have, he'll send it maybe to 20. And if those 20 see it and like it and comment and share and react, he'll send it to another 20. If the first 20 don't react, don't like it, don't comment, he won't send it to anybody else. And that's out of my control. I have no, even if you pay money to boost your post, if it's a post that doesn't really work in the first place, paying money to boost it won't make it work either. Whereas email is a direct conversation between me and my subscribers, you know, and not only that, when you receive my email, it says, "Hi, Krista." You know, it's a personal message to you. And when I write it, I actually have in mind the faces and the people that I'm writing to. You know, I'm not writing a newspaper column. I'm writing to people that I know. I'm writing to real people that I know. And so that's why it's a very powerful tool to be going directly into somebody's inbox, you know, because Facebook is random, and Instagram is even more random, and it's only a picture, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to say this before we continue, is that I have been receiving Michelle's newsletters for a long time, and every time her email pops into my inbox, I must say, I kind of like drop everything else. I was like, okay, let me check out what she has in store for us this time, because the best parts about her newsletter that she sends out via her email is that she always has some very interesting stuff, like pre-loved stuff for sale, right? And those are the things that are like treasure hunting. It's like suddenly, oh, I find this thing that I wanted to buy. For instance, okay, I wanted to buy just a coffee maker, and there it is. And so it's really like a box of surprises that you get each time you open up the email. So how often do you send out your emails, Michelle? Because I don't know. I just keep opening them when you send out, so I don't know how often they come out.
I would say on average, it's about every 10 days or 2 weeks. Last year, I think I sent 30 newsletters in the course of the year. So my rule of thumb is I only send a newsletter when I really have news, when I have something to say. Okay, I will never send a newsletter just for the sake of it. And I do subscribe to a few different mailing lists of from different companies. And one of the things I don't like as a recipient is receiving many individual messages. Like, I have asked I ask subscribers or friends, which is almost the same thing, from time to time, would you prefer the emails to be shorter? Because the sort of received wisdom is that you should have a short email with a clear message, you know, and send it out. And I don't know, perhaps you can just poll on or ask your audience how many people are actually receiving my newsletter, and so know what I'm talking about. But my newsletter breaks all the rules from that point of view. It gets longer and longer, and I think to myself, oh my goodness, I have to stop soon, because it's even too long for me to write it, you know, let alone for some poor person to read it. But I'm mindful of the fact that people are busy, and they don't want to receive multiple small messages, because I don't have the organization to compile it into one whole story. Yes, I send about every 2 weeks is the short answer to your question.
Okay. So here we have a comment from Gideon, and he says, I want to join Michelle's newsletter mailing list. So Michelle, how do they join? If anyone's watching right now, or even doing the replay, how do they get onto your mailing list? Tell.
Okay, it's very simple. My company name is Spiral Synergy. It's at it should be probably going across the bottom of your screen where it says Michelle Grimsley of Spiral Synergy. So you can go to www.spiralsynergy.com. And I think almost every page of my website, which is a very bad, ancient, and badly in need of updating website, has a join our mailing list link. Okay, so you can join from there. If you have a friend who sends it to you, there's always a link in there. My phone number is 016 457-0221. Perhaps Krista will share that with you in a chat or in a message later. You can just message me. You can WhatsApp me. My email address is michelle@spiralsynergy.com. You can email me at michelle@spiralsynergy.com with the subject subscribe. It's very easy to subscribe.
Here I also want to interject and say something. I've known Michelle for many, many years, and I've even taken part in your Welcome to Penang fairs, which used to have at G Hotel. Do you have it last year? No,
I
right?
didn't. No, last year was not the right year to have it. It was too the rules around meetings and registration and spacing of tables and so on made it and also the fact that it's primarily aimed at people who are new arrivals in Penang. And last year, because of the lockdown and the lack of interstate inter-country travel, there were very few people who were arriving, and even teachers that I know had been recruited could not get their visas in time for September. So I did not arrange it in 2020, but I'm still hoping to arrange it in 2021.
Which is this year. Yes. So
if I'm not successful to do it, I've always done it in September because that's the time of the start of the international school year. So in years gone by, but late August was the time when people arrived in Penang in time for the new school year. But actually that pattern is changing because there's a lot of people coming on under Malaysia My Second Home. People are coming for work anyway. So if I cannot arrange it in 2021, I should do it in January 2022.
Okay, that's good to hear. I wanted to mention that because that's where, of course, we have taken part in Michelle's Welcome to Penang fair. But the other thing was, there was one time I remember when you came for one of our events in Women Biz Sense. We had our, I think, high tea or something. And I still remember that Michelle was talking about her newsletter and there are people interested. And she just whipped out her phone. And she's like, okay, you can sign. Was it your phone? I think it was your phone, right? I know you just took it and say like, hey, you can sign up now or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an app. There's an app for it, Yeah. So you just so when I meet people and they say, oh, it sounds interesting, I'd like to sign up, I just say, okay, here you go. You put in your name and your email address and you're there.
Yeah. So she's very good at this. So I saw her just like, wow, this woman is fantastic. She's like, she's a marketing powerhouse.
You have to be careful standing in a supermarket queue behind me because I'm likely to say something to you like, do you receive our Spiral Synergy newsletter?
Okay. So before that, because I just typed this in. So for those who want to get on her newsletter, just go to spiralsynergy.com. And then, and you'll get Michelle's very, very long email every 10 days. So whenever she has interesting news to share about Penang and the pre-love items, and the pre-love items are really good. And to give people some context is that most of the things that she sells are really of high quality. I personally have bought stuff from her.
The other thing, which of course I do, is I arrange events, Spiral Synergy events. So I have a whole program of activities. Just this week, I have been doing Moonlight Mansions Mystery Tour by Trishaw. Mystery Trishaw Ride and Dinner. Moonlight Mansions Mystery Trishaw Ride and Dinner. Okay. And part of the reason for that is to try and support the Trishaw drivers. Yesterday morning, I did I Spy by Trishaw with a group of parents and kids. I have to say, I had huge fun. I made a list of things that we should be looking for while we were going around in the Trishaws. For example, lions, elephants. What else did we have? A whole list: blue flowers, stars. And it's amazing when you have like one thing that you're looking for, how many you can find while you're riding around. So not only I did that mainly to keep the kids interested. But once I started doing it, I thought, oh, I'm seeing a lot of things in Penang that I never spotted before. So I just try to think what part of what I like to do is to showcase what I think is the best of Penang. So what appeals to me in Penang? I love the history, I love the heritage, I love all the different cultures all mixed up together. I love peeling paintwork. I love textures. Of course, food. But I'm not the person who's famous for Penang food. But I feel that Penang has so much going for it, which is not highlighted at all. So part of my mission is to show people what interesting and exciting things there are in Penang if you just look a little bit for them.
Yeah, and you've done a great job, and I love the fact that you're bringing people, introducing them to the community, as well as helping. Like the trishaw drivers are really suffering during this time, so I think it's a wonderful effort that you're putting, and you're combining two things: your love for Penang and helping the community around you.
And not only that, but helping my subscribers, because there are many people who either for whatever reason that in the beginning when I started doing Spiral Synergy, I love to explore in Penang. I like nothing better than to hop in a trishaw for an hour or two and just drive around and see what I can see. But there are lots of people who are actually scared. They're scared. They don't know where to park. They don't know what to eat. They don't know where to find a toilet they can use. And things like, I don't know, the Chinese temples. They don't know whether you can go inside, whether you have to be properly dressed. They don't want to offend, but at the same time they dare not to look. And there are also people who they just want to turn up. They just want to turn up at a bus stop. They want to be picked up at Straits Quay, and they want to be shown something interesting, and they want to learn something for a morning, and then they want to go home and have their lunch. So those and they're happy. They're happy to feel that they discovered something. And so actually, it's not only helping the trishaw men and the small businesses that I'm supporting. It's also helping my own customers, my own subscribers, to more fully enjoy Penang.
Okay, so you have covered the subscribers and covered the community. So now I want to talk about success stories from your emailing. Okay. Because I think that will be interesting to dig into, right? Because we've been talking about, so Michelle uses email to help her with marketing and to help her keep her subscribers informed of what's happening in Penang and the events that she's organizing, as well as other interesting events that's happening in Penang. But on your side, since you've been running this since 2010,
yes,
I am sure you have a ton of stories to tell us about email and how email email has helped you grow your business, but do you have any stories to share about how people have come to you and say, hey, Michelle, because of your email, this happened?
One of the things perhaps I would like to share is that usually my e-newsletter is a mixture of the events that I'm organizing, other events that I know about or that people mention to me that they think my subscribers would like to know about, and my items and my pre-loved items. That's what normally the content of the newsletter is. But last year, when we had the first MCO, I couldn't do any of those things. I couldn't do any activities, and I also did not want to be encouraging people to go out unnecessarily. Anyway, people were not supposed to be going to to visit each other at condos and so on. So mindful of that, I sort of stopped my business and sat on my balcony and relaxed and, you know,
took a break.
Anyway, so I after, but during that period, I was reading the news, you know, reading online news in Malaysia and around the world. I was on Facebook, and I saw the sort of things that people were asking questions about, you know, visas, and I don't know where to get information, and you know, where to order food, or all sorts of different things. I could see people were asking questions, and I thought, I actually know the answers to quite a lot of the questions that people are asking. So, and after when we had the first MCO, it was announced for 2 weeks. Then, but it seemed unlikely the whole thing was going to be finished in 2 weeks. So I started to plan ahead and think, okay, if it goes on longer than 2 weeks, what will I do? And I wrote a newsletter which had no news, like it had none of my news. It didn't have any events. It didn't have any pre-loved items. But what it had was sources of information. So where, you know, I included links to the Malaysia Kini page, which was one of the best I found for updating the current numbers, the Penang Lawan COVID, some information that a friend sent me about why social distancing can help, and things like links to takeaway restaurants or businesses that were providing online food, online exercise, and whatever I thought that people might find useful. And that was my most opened email ever. You know, I got amazing feedback from people by email and by WhatsApp to say, we really appreciate this newsletter. You know, it's answered a lot of questions that we had. So that was like that was one of the most surprising emails, because I thought people, I said to my husband, what do you think about sending this email? He said, I think it's a waste of time, you know, because you don't have anything to say. So I thought, well, I don't normally pay attention to what my husband says. I don't think he'll be awake watching this, and I doubt he'll watch the recording. You might have to cut that bit out. But anyway, that was a lesson to me, that actually people not only want to know, but they also want to have a feeling of normality, and they want to. It's like receiving a letter from a friend. You know, the news isn't always good, but I am by nature quite a positive person, so I try to look at, you know, what you can do instead of what you can't do. Now, success stories. Actually, during the last year, the shape of my business changed a bit. I have never been really arranged things to do with food. And so, but during last year, because of the whole mask wearing thing, I thought it's not very comfortable to be walking the streets of Georgetown or whatever. So I started to think about, okay, what can I arrange that will give people an opportunity to meet in a, you know, socially distanced, as safe as possible environment. And so I started to put together some dinners and some lunches and my events are all small group. You know, I 8 to 15 people is the sort of numbers that I like to deal with. It gives people a chance to talk to each other. One of the things that I really love about it is that people can come to my activities just on their own. You know, you don't need to come with a friend, you don't need to come with a partner, you can come by yourself. You'll always be welcome, and you'll always meet other interesting people. So there's a few things that give me pleasure. One is that seeing people that I know met at one of my events, and then seeing them later, you know, out together, and knowing that they made friends at an event that I organized. That's one of the things. The other thing is that you never know what's going to be successful. Last year, I was working with, I'd done some tours of Seven Terraces Hotel, a tour and lunch at Seven Terraces, which was also surprisingly successful. And on the back of that, Chris Ong asked me, do you think anybody wants to eat Sri Lankan food? And I said, I've no idea. Let me put it in the newsletter. And finally, we had something like 169 people, I think, came and ate Sri Lankan food. Not all at the same time, over a whole series of evenings. But you never know quite what's going to catch people's imagination. One of the other ones, which my most popular ever tour, or outing, I should say, event, is Magical Fireflies at Nibong Tebal. I have done that one, I don't know, maybe 100 times, taking small groups of people there. Again, it's all about supporting small businesses and showing people something that they wouldn't find by themselves. So that one has been my most popular. The second most popular was an event that I ran from time to time, which was Furniture Confidential, where we'd go to visit some of the antique and junk and furniture shops. That one was always a popular one too.
So now I want to ask you, do you have a secret VIP list, right? Yeah, you have a VIP list for your email subscribers. So this one is really
no, I don't. No, I don't. I mean, occasionally people will say to me, if you get a set of outdoor furniture, I'm looking for an outdoor furniture. Or somebody will say to me, if you get a fridge, I'm looking for a fridge. But to be honest, people say those things to me, and then maybe I don't have a fridge on hand. And by the time 3 weeks later, somebody sends me a fridge, I may have forgotten who asked me for a fridge. So I don't have a VIP list. All subscribers are equal.
Okay, but is there how should I say? Is there an advance something that you send out, right? You send it through WhatsApp.
Oh, so I have one. This was of course, one of the things of using email. So what are the disadvantages of using email? The disadvantage of using email is that when you send it out, you never know whether the person at the other end is going to be receiving it. And I'm using a mailing service, so most of the browsers now, or the email providers, identify emails coming from mailing lists. And they don't know that people are eagerly awaiting my newsletter. They don't know that my subscribers are sort of sitting with their phones poised, waiting for it to arrive. Okay. They think this is another mailing email that our customers don't want to receive. So they drop it into promotions or into junk or into some place where you may not find it. So I thought to myself, what to do here? This is really a nuisance. So I thought maybe what I'll do is I will send a WhatsApp. I'll ask people if they would like to receive a WhatsApp to tell them that the newsletter is going to be coming, and then they know to look out for it. So in fact, that's what I offer, and that's what I do. And so it's not really a VIP list. It's free to subscribe to my newsletter, and it's free to be on my WhatsApp alert list as well. But the WhatsApp alert will let you know that a newsletter is on its way to you, and then you know that you need to look out for it. And it's actually quite an amazing response. So if I send my newsletter at, I don't know, 12, well, I don't normally send it at 12. I normally send it at 12:05. Or let's say I send it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's easier. Typically, my phone will start buzzing at like 5:03 or 5:04 with people who want to buy the things that are in my newsletter.
Wow.
It's
that fast.
It's
that fast.
It's instant. And then I will have 2 or maybe 3 hours of messages coming in every 2 or 3 minutes to buy the items that are the pre-loved items. Normally for the events, people don't have to rush to be quite as fast. But anyway, for the pre-loved items, they really sell. And that's one of the things when you're talking about success stories. You know, people who have things they'd like to sell through me will say that the response was amazing. You know, I couldn't believe it. You sent out the newsletter, and like within 24 hours, I got 2,500 ringgit. You know, of all the miscellaneous things that I'd sold. So, and I charge for the service. We don't charge for the advertisement, but we take a commission on items that are sold. And our only rule is you cannot be advertising anywhere else at the same time as you start advertising with us, because our rate of success in matching sellers and buyers is so high.
Okay. So then this brings me to my other question is, how big a list do you have in order to have that kind of success? Do you have to have a huge list, or is like a couple of thousand would do?
Oh, my subscriber, my list now is 4,660 people or something. My objective is to keep it growing. Those 4,600 people, not every one of them is in Penang, you know. Some of them used to live in Penang and already left, but they still like to receive my news, to feel a bit connected. Some of them are going to be moving here, and they would like to get a feeling of what's going on. As of course, a good number of them are here. But I would say the whole selling that items from the time that I had maybe 2,500 subscribers onwards, it's been really successful. And it started as an experiment. Somebody at the beginning, I was only doing the events, I was only advertising the events, and then this person messaged me and said, I've got a television. We only used it for a couple of weeks, and we'd like to sell it. And I thought, sounds suspicious to me. I mean, who buys a television and only uses it for 2 weeks? So I said, how do you come to have a television that you only use for 2 weeks? And then he said, we brought our great big television from Europe, and it broke. And because it was a European model, the motherboard had to come from Australia, and they told us it might take up to 3 months. So he said, we didn't want to be without a TV for 3 months, so we went and bought another one. But he said, in fact, it only took 2 weeks to get the motherboard, and then our good TV got repaired. And now we've got this spare one in the spare bedroom that we don't need it. So I thought, okay, sounds reasonable to me. But basically, my pre-loved items it's a private seller, private buyer thing. It's not like eBay where you have, you know, traders who are basically selling new stuff. You know, that's not what it's for. And I'm actually pretty ruthless at weeding out sort of errant sellers and also errant buyers, because the whole thing about it demands there's a sort of buying etiquette, there's a selling etiquette, which is we're only selling things which are in good condition. You know, my newsletter is not a place for offloading stuff that ought to be going to the rubbish bin, and at the same time there's a sort of buying etiquette, which you know the price, and the price is whatever it is stated in the newsletter. And if you are not willing to pay that price, you don't need to call up and buy, you know, because that's the price that is offered for sale. If that price is too high, you don't want to pay that for it, you just wait, because next time, if it doesn't get sold, it will normally be reduced. And then if it comes down to the price you'd like to pay, that's fine. But we don't encourage negotiation. And you know, our buyers know that, and our sellers know that, and our buyers know that. So it's very I'd say it's quite a clean way of selling on the whole, and most of the time it works quite well. Of course, there's occasionally things don't work. Then we normally will help to resolve that so that, you know, everybody's happy.
Okay. So since you've been emailing your subscribers and getting great success with your outings, your events, and even your pre-love items. What do you think makes it such a success? For you, because I know you use a combination of WhatsApp and email.
I do, and I do occasionally use Facebook. I am trying to do a bit more on Facebook because Facebook is a way of communicating with people that I don't know. It's one of the ways that I can cheaply communicate with people that I don't know already. But one of the best things about my newsletter is people pass it on, so it's a referral thing. Sorry, you just asked me the question again. I lost my thread.
Like, what do you think makes you such a success? I mean, like, in terms of like using email and all that, because is it because you know your community well and know what
I think it's because I have quite a clearly defined market. I have quite a clearly defined target customer group, and I know, or I have a reasonable sense of what will appeal to them. There's no right answer, Krista. There's not even a right question some of the time. Everything's trial and error. Everything's trial and error. And I have arranged events and put it in my newsletter, and nobody wanted to join. And then I think that's a shame, because I thought it would have been a good event. But anyway, I give up. But sometimes I come back and I change the wording. Sometimes I'll change the picture. Sometimes it's about the date that it's on. People have other things on a particular date, and a certain date doesn't work. So I am in that group of people who is if it doesn't work the first time, we don't give up. We just try again. We have to think about, okay, well, what were the reasons that it didn't work? And I'm fortunate in having a very good group of friends and customers, which are quite a lot of the time the same thing, who will say to me, I didn't like that picture, or I thought that thing was a bit expensive, or I wasn't sure what I would get if I went to it. And then I think, oh, okay, I knew what I had in mind, but obviously the form of words that I used to explain it did not convey clearly enough what the guest was going to get out of it. And that's the same thing with the pre-loved items. Oh my goodness, people send me the most dreadful photos. It's like,
do you have to reshoot some of the photos?
I don't want to say that this is a service I really offer, that I will go and take the photos, but if people do have a lot of items, sometimes it's easier for me to just go and take the photos, then I know the whole thing in one go. But people send me photos, and I will say to them, I can't use this photo, please send me another one. Sometimes I'll send them an example and say, can you send me one that looks like this? A rule of thumb is, if you would see a photo like that in a magazine, I have a good chance of selling it for you. If you are standing and you look down on something and you snap a photo, or at a crazy angle, and then when you send me the photo, it looks sort of like that, I cannot sell that. I cannot help you to sell that thing, because the photo is too terrible,
Yeah.
But
it's too ugly, right?
It's and pricing, have it on the whole pre-loved items buying and selling thing. There are a lot of items that I have sold in the past, and I have a fairly good feeling of what prices things will sell for. So when people say, I've got this item, but I don't know what to sell it for. And then I say, you just send me the picture, and based on the picture, I'll normally be able to tell you. There's many weird and wonderful things I have no idea about them. And somebody asked me to advertise a boat. I didn't buy a boat. And then a few months later, somebody said to me, I remember you had a boat for sale. Did it ever sell? I'm like, oh my God.
That I have not seen a boot for sale in your newsletter, but maybe I missed
that's
it. Yeah.
some time ago. That's some time ago.
Okay.
But it's all unpredictable. Sometimes people send me a picture and I think, oh goodness, I wish there was 10 of them, because I know that I can sell it immediately, and I know as soon as it goes, there's still going to be another 10 or 20 people who want it, and then I think, so sad. Then there are other things, and I don't think I'll be able to sell that for that price. Sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm wrong.
So there's a lot of testing, and also a lot of testing of the images, the headlines, what you say about the item, right? That helps it sell.
Yes, and my whole message, I've been going at this since 2009, is don't give up. Don't give up. You don't. And you don't know, one thing leads to another, and you don't know what's going to lead to the next thing. So, you don't know. So you just keep trying.
Yeah. So what about, just say right now, someone who's listening to this, whether it's live or on the replay, that the person says, okay, I've just started my business and I love Michelle's, idea of using email as a strategy for growing my business and growing my customers. What should that person do? Should the person just sign up for a mailing list and get started right off the
bat? What should you do? You have to, you have to think what you're going to, what do you have? Okay, sorry, I start this sentence again. Long ago, I read a book called How I Turned Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. It's written in the 1930s, I think, by a man who was selling life insurance. And he was very, very unsuccessful at selling life insurance because he was thinking about what he had to sell. So he went out, and he was being paid on a commission, as most life insurance is. And so he went out to try and sell people insurance. And no big surprise that people didn't really want to buy it. So I forget who he talked to or who he listened to or how. I don't remember what was the light bulb moment he had, but his business really turned around when, instead of thinking about what he had to sell, he started thinking about what his customers wanted to buy, and started listening to what concerns they had and what problems they were experiencing. And then thought about which of the products that he had to offer met their expectation, met their problem, or solved their problem. So when he'd meet somebody who was concerned about funding his son's university education, he would know that what would work for them would be a sort of ongoing savings thing that would generate payout when the son reached 18 or 20 or 21 or whatever, so that would pay for their education. So by listening to what the problems of the customers were, he realized how to solve it. And so I'd say, before you even think about whether email is the right marketing tool, you think about who your customers are, and what their problem is, and what you have to offer them. And when you know how to answer that question, you know what to put in your newsletter. You know what to put in an email, or you know what to put in a Facebook post, or you know what to put in an Instagram post. Because that at the end of the day, that is what sales is. Sales is matching a customer's problem to a solution that you can offer.
Love that answer. I know you didn't start with a constant contact. Sign up, register.
When I started, constant contact was like the gold standard of email marketing, and MailChimp was a smaller sort of nibbling around the edges player. MailChimp made their service free, and Constant Contact has always been paid. MailChimp's free up to a certain number of subscribers, and Constant Contact is not, and is, for the number of subscribers that I have, is substantially more expensive. But I would never consider to use MailChimp. I find it's very it's very counterintuitive. I don't find it's easy to use. Constant Contact, I've actually taught a couple of quite not very tech people how to use it, and send out successful messages. And you know, maybe if there's enough interest from people listening to this, or you know, amongst your group, I could do a sort of email online or in-person email how to do email marketing, and I have and am doing that sort of consultancy for companies at the moment, because in this time, actually, it's not that easy to find customers. You know, you have to husband and look after the customers that you already have. But one thing I'd say, because we're coming to the end of the time, is if you are running a business, the most important thing you can do is collect contact details for your customers, whether that's a phone number so that you can contact them by short message or WhatsApp, whether that's an email address so that you can contact them by email. But for you to have their contact is much more valuable for them to be able than to have them follow you on Facebook. Follow on Facebook means nothing.
Yeah. And I love that point of view too, because we've always been telling our customers, you know, grow your subscribers, grow your list, because your
existing customers are your best source of future customers.
Yeah. So a lot of people are just always going for the shiny new thing, you know, but they forget that all these platforms are supposed to enable you to get more customers. But if you don't know how to take care of them or even get their details, I mean, you've lost them.
Yeah, it's not even to get a subscriber; it's to get sales. Sales. Sales is what counts. You know, it doesn't matter if you have 5,000 Facebook followers. The thing is, you have to have sales.
Yeah. Okay, so before we end, I want to pull up some comments. So, Miss Akor Hokri, yes, this is my client. So he says, it's Frank Badger.
How I raised myself from failure to success in selling. That is a unlikely title for a book. I actually don't know why, but I have 2 copies of it.
I actually have a copy of it. I do have a copy of it. And another one is Gideon says, I'm so amazed at what Michelle is doing, bringing exclusive tours and send out newsletter about Penang, which I always dream of doing in future in a digital platform though. So I'm so happy someone's doing that. And how can I register for an event? Well, if you're on her newsletter mailing list, you'll get all the news about what she's doing and what she's selling and what she's organizing. So I think that's the best place.
Yeah, when you receive the newsletter, you can register for the event. You simply send me a WhatsApp or you send me an email and say, I'd like to join this event.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Gideon. Thank you, everyone who have been watching. I did put out a link for people to join us in the comments, but it seems that today's crowd is not really interested in asking the questions on screen, but they are rather put in the comments. But it's okay. We always have different kind of crowds. So thank you, Michelle, for sharing a little bit about how you do your email marketing and what is important for you as a business owner. And I'm sure we can still go on and on if we had a lot more time, but this is all the time that we have. And I like the fact that what you say is really, really true, that you say the best source of new sales is old customers. Yeah. So people who are doing sales, people who are doing marketing, just remember that. And the other thing is, if you want to read that book, go and get the book. I'm not too sure whether the book is still in print or, circulating around. So thank you so much, Michelle. It has been a wonderful morning talking to you. Before we go, I want to put it up again, your SparrowSynergy.com. So go and sign up for her newsletter and look at all the interesting things she has in store for you. And I hope that many of you will start to rediscover Penang through Michelle's wonderful events and tours and the things that she's doing. So thank you once more, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are watching, those of you watching, whether it's on our Facebook page, Michelle's page, my page, or wherever you're watching this. And this will also be on YouTube. So in case you missed this out, I will also put a YouTube link later on. So thank you, Michelle, for a great, wonderful sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me, Krista.
You're welcome. Thank you. And goodbye, everyone. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Where we'll be talking about intellectual property and how you can protect your intellectual property. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.